Yeah, what am I talking about right now? We're talking about AI, and I'm starting to segue into talking about how to learn, how to get basic proficiency in different sorts of information. Three, two, one, play. So I was just in the middle of describing a process for learning about AI and trying to make a much more general thing about how to learn about, or rather, how to gain sort of a basic proficiency in most topics. I think the one of the most important things to do is not to do a ridiculous deep dive on the actual subject. It's more to sounds a little crazy, I understand. It's more to learn a bit about that actual specific thing that you need, and then to use that information to fill in all of the holes in your own understanding that you perhaps aren't quite so strong at, right? So if you show up and you want to learn about AI and you have a really good background in computer science and math, you probably already know about AI, but it's going to be very easy going for you. But if you don't have that good background in computer science and math, you show up, you're trying to learn about AI, it's, you're going to be extraordinarily top heavy in AI information, of which is probably being given to you at a relatively high level once you get into it. Rough. You're getting incredibly high level sort of AI information, but you don't have a good sort of general basis of information to incorporate that into. So, how does that work with programming as a whole? How does it work in terms of mathematics? How difficult is this is the sort of mathematics that you're going to see in the articles that you're looking at? This is all really important information to sort of understand. And instead of trying to get a really deep dive on a particular topic right away, it's much more important to use learning about a topic to build your existing strengths. Whenever you're trying to learn something new, it is important that you try and get new information, but it's actually much more important. It took me ages to learn this, and you'll learn so much faster once you do. It's actually so much more important to focus on the things that you already know, that you're already good at, that you can already incorporate new information really easily into, and then to get a relationship with that new topic, in this case AI, and keep on sort of building a loop there. Learning a bit about AI, bouncing about, improving your mathematics. Going over, doing a bit of programming, learning a bit more about AI. Using that to sort of create this positive feedback loop where you're constantly finding something new and interesting in the topic, even if you're often having to take a back seat and put something that you just found that's really cool and that you want to dive into deeper away for later so that you can do more interesting stuff. I got some pretty cool moves there. Look at this movement. Let me go. So the purpose of this topic, I think, is to start segueing into more of a conversation about one of the things that I think, nice tries, it is just about one of the most fascinating topics that exists, and that is, how do we learn? What is learning? What is learning about? This obviously has a huge amount to do with all sorts of really fascinating philosophical and psychological questions, things about, what is a mind? What is the difference between animals and humans? What are the physical adaptations that changed to allow us to do all the things that we do? What role does actual tactile physicality play in mental manipulation? How do we take mental ideas and transform them into shapes and objects, and then actually describe a set of actions, like I wasn't doing anything, describe a set of actions that produces those things in real life? These to me are a fascinating set of questions, and they're sort of things that I would love to dive into endlessly in almost any medium. So we're going to start here with just sort of basic ideas of learning. That concept, I think, of trying to obtain basic proficiency in something by using it, and using it as a way to explore the things that you're already good at and to build skills that you're going to need. You kind of have to admit at a certain point that if you want to be good at something like AI, but you're not willing to put in the effort to learn a really good programming, really good computer science, you're just never going to be good. Like, I'm sorry, there's always going to be people who are really, really way better than you because they did the actual mandatory reading. And that's just a hard reality that comes and hits people in the face with learning at a certain times. And one of the things that I try to do is be realistic about the things that I know, and really be realistic about the learning that I have done and the learning that I have not done. And that is often kind of a frustrating experience. And I'm often way too hard on myself with that, because I'll catch myself in mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, and I'm trying to explain things to all the time, and I love doing it, and I love trying to communicate, and I love climbing this rock and doing a great job. But all of these things that I love sort of communicating to people and trying to explain, you can't let yourself get caught up in just delivering that information and constantly like going and going and going, except perhaps in a platform like this. Most of the time what you're trying to do is you're trying to just give people the information that they care about, right? Because that's where the learning happens for you when you're in front of a class, or you when you're trying to communicate to a crowd or to a group or to a single person. And that's also where the learning happens for you at home. When you care, when you're passionate, when you manage to convince yourself that, whatever it is that's boring, that other people find drudgery, whether it be math or Latin or science or any topic, every topic that people have ever done, or gym, any class that people have ever done, anything that they've ever learned, somebody has found boring, but somebody else has found it crazy and interesting and bizarre and fascinating. And there's all sorts of things that I find boring, like most money things, accounting, almost all finance. I've learned a bunch of macro over my years. Disappointing. I've learned a bunch of macro over my years, but the micro I find so tedious, yada yada. But you can't, like, that judgment is just my feeling, it's just my emotion, and I have to work through that. And I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong, because people are passionate about that stuff and they're interested. And it doesn't mean that it's something that I have to live my life towards, right? I don't have to like change all my plans to go into finance or to go into accounting if I don't find it interesting. But by the same token, I don't get the right to be dismissive of these things just because I'm not interested in them, and that isn't just about trying to be nice to people. That's about learning, that's about setting yourself up to actually take on board all of these different sorts of information that you need, and to make all of these different radical connections that are actually really useful, and that do in many ways sort of turbocharge your ability to consume information. If you have all of these different references, then your real goal is to make active learning as easy as possible for yourself. And if you always have something that you can bounce off of, and you always have the ability to flow freely with the information, and to keep on thinking of stuff, and to keep on engaging, and to keep on absorbing new stuff that is interesting to you and that you care about, then your learning ceiling is limited basically by your time as opposed to by your effort, which is incredibly important, right? And there's times in our life when we have lots of time to learn, and there's times when we don't. But everybody can hopefully take at least a small amount of time to do something that they care about, to do something that they love. And my hope is that more people care and more people love learning, because it really is. It's just sort of the backbone of everything that we do. Everything that you engage with, everything that made your childhood fun. It was probably some sort of learning you just haven't even figured out. Maybe it wasn't school. Like, schools, lots of people hate school. It goes rough for a ton of people, and that sucks a lot. And I wish I could do something to change that for so many people. I just don't have that opportunity. But that being said, you do have the ability, and you do on yourself. You learn all sorts of fascinating things. One of my goals here is to try and explore these different types of learning that I've become passionate about, that I think are important, that I really love, and show that it's not, like, this is a form of like playing games and trying to be good at stuff is totally a form of learning. And I'm terrible at this video game, but at so many other ones, but it's still fun for me, because I can show up each time and I can do something a little bit different, and I know that the ceiling is so much further above anything where I will ever get to. But that doesn't stop me from trying and from incorporating into all the different things that I know, because there's physics in here, and there's graphics in here, and there's presentation and imagery and all sorts of crazy cool stuff as well. So that was pretty fun for me. I hope it was pretty fun for you too. I got some crazy thing that I don't know about, and 14 and 9 is a pretty good score. So have a great day.